you?
Good, how are you?
Okay,
Good.
chal raha hai, 7 months or is it 8 months? I have no clue. I kept thinking today is Sunday, so you can well imagine
Oh,
what our mind space is as of now. I mean, we are totally mismatched.
the only way I track my week is that, okay, I have to do cleaning on Thursday and Sunday. So is it Wednesday today or Thursday? So that's how I keep a track.
I know. Okay. So, well, thank you so much for speaking to me. So, yesterday I sat down and watched the show. And so, the first question I want to ask the two of you, it's an adaptation of Sandhya's book, When Dimple Met Rishi. So, what made you choose this particular book? And were there any changes for the real adaptation? How did you go about it?
So, the thing is that actually I was approached by RSVP and Netflix with the book, and they
Okay.
asked me if I'd be interested in adapting it. And I read the book, and the book. I don't know if you have any context of the book. It's about these two teens. They're Indian American kids, so it's set in the US,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sweet, it's romantic, and I was really drawn in by Dimple's character. So Dimple and Rishi, while we've placed the story now in India, in Jaipur, as you know, it's their characters, the core of the characters, which we've carried forward from the book to the show. Dimple is this really ambitious and very strong headed girl who knows what she wants in life. And she does not want to fall into the same old trap of marriage and everything. That character called out to me. And so, while we made a lot of changes to the book, we've added many more interesting characters, many themes that we're dealing with in the show. But it's the core romance of these two characters which sort of stayed with me, and we brought that into the show.
And I liked what Akarsh had said in an interview I read, where you said generations change, but the teens don't, more or less. I mean, the magnitude, teens these days are far more social media savvy and they're too with it, but somehow the mentality remains the same. I could resonate with Dimple at many levels. And I was a teen some 3 decades ago, So, Akash, tell me, I mean, you've directed the series. What struck you about this particular book and narrative?
Well, I mean, again, like Ghazal, I was approached by RSVP. I think Ghazal was already on board by then. She had already started writing, and I had done a film for RSVP. I had done Karma with them, and I was prepping for another film, which was a while away. And they got in touch with me, saying that there was some, this young adult content that they were doing based on this book, and that Ghazal was writing it, and that would I be interested. So I read the book. That was all I had access to at that point of time, and I thought it was very sweet. I thought it was there was a really nice kind of romance at the heart of it, and what I liked about it was that while it was very clearly like a young adult kind of space, I kind of found that there was an interesting kind of maturity in the relationship that was which kind of made it feel a little bit more contemporary, and I like that. I don't know why I get approached for young adult content. I'm not young by a long shot, and I think I blame Mithila Palkar mostly
Heart
because
is the key word, Akash. That's what I tell people. I don't because
you
I'm young
know
at heart.
post COVID, I don't know what my heart's looking like right now either.
None of us know what
Uh,
our hearts are looking at.
so
It's
yeah, no,
okay.
no, I had it. I was positive. So I mean,
Akash got
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. But no, so I mean, I was really happy. I think that there's for me what was really exciting was, of course, besides this, and when I read what Ghazal had done with it, of course there was this romance at the heart of it, which was gives me a lot of scope to kind of create these lovely little moments that Ghazal has written down. I really like all of that. I like the little doing building these little moments, but it was also a great ensemble. Like there was a potential for a great youth cast, and I had a kind of free hand at being able to bring in a lot of new talent.
hmm
I didn't have any kind of pressure that they've got to be like only known faces. I was being given a free hand to bring in who was right for the role. And having done now 20 years of theater, I've actually interacted with a lot of young people. So for me, it was a great opportunity to showcase not only a couple that has this lovely love story, but also like an ensemble that was a bunch of young people that are just very talented and from different parts of the country.
True. And also, lately, I mean, earlier, like back in the 80s when I was growing up, the young teen stories were all American, basically, from high school USA to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But now, recently, I'm seeing a lot of, I mean, there were few, I mean, when the OTT boom started, just here and there. But now I'm seeing a lot of narratives dealing with Indian teens, and also trying to show their perspective. Ki, ये generation इतनी बुरी नहीं है because the poor things, the millennials and Gen Z really have got a bad rep. So are you also seeing this change? And now directors also and writers want to explore their world as well, irrespective of how old they are.
I think that, and this is something that I've kind of noticed in all the time that I've done theater. I think that there is nothing as big a draw as relatability.
Hmm.
And I think that Indian audiences now have access, and Indian audiences also do want to see homegrown content
Yes.
on the OTT platforms. Of course, they've had their films for years and they've been proud of them forever. But the thing is that I think that, of course, they love all the Western shows that they are watching. But the thing is that, I don't think there's any kind of response that's as warm as, for something that they can connect with.
True.
Either they see themselves in it, or they see people that they know in it.
True.
And this is something that we saw even in theater. Like there was this whole wave about 15 years ago where everybody would perform these American plays or British plays, and they would be like there would be like Indians playing like Walter and stuff like that. And of course people liked it and they watched it. But the thing is that then people started realizing that if you make the effort to adapt stuff into recontextualize it, it just lands much better. I think people feel more connected, and I think that what Ghazal's done with the book as well. I mean, keeping the essence of what the the emotions of it and the story of it, but like positioned it into. I mean, it is Indian. It is an Indian couple in the book as well, but set in San Francisco, and if I'm not wrong, San Francisco, yeah. And now it's been kind of recontextualized and adapted and made a little bit more of a milieu of our audience, which is such a huge audience. So I think that relatable content is really the way to go. So
And I like it's set in Jaipur. Usually you have these stories that are set in Delhi, Mumbai, or Bangalore. I like the fact that it's set in Jaipur. And also, Ghazal, what strikes me about your narratives is whether it was Ek Ladki Ko Dekha To Aisa Laga, and also this, it's like a woman's perspective. Like societal pressures, it's everywhere. शादी कब होगी, एक उम्र हो गई, अरे तुम सांवली हो, गोरी लगना चाहिए, तुमको ये करना चाहिए. I like the way you delve into the woman's mindset and try to show things from her perspective, that she does not need to adhere to societal norms. Though it's a fight, but she does, so is that very conscientious when you are writing and you actually focus a lot more on your female characters?
Firstly, it just comes naturally to me because I that's the vision I have of the world, and I feel like it's much less represented than it should be. So it comes naturally to me. But I also think that those stories are new because they're so less explored.
Yeah.
We've only largely seen and watched and heard stories largely of men from men's perspective, from male writers' point of views, which is why the female stories, at least to me, stand out as fresh and unexplored. And that's the reason I also feel drawn to them, and I think it connects with people because it feels new.
Yeah.
It's like, Acha, this is a world I'm not familiar with. This is a world I should get to know about. And hopefully, through by telling that story in an entertaining manner, you're able to expose a whole new world and a whole new way of thinking to your viewers. Um, that's, I guess, that's the reason I feel drawn to them. Um, I also, sorry, I feel lost for words sometimes. It's not, that does not mean to say that my male characters are not important to me. In
No, I
fact,
somehow loved your male character, whether it was Rajkumar or whether it's Rishi's character here. Absolutely
yeah,
hot.
no, this is something I heard Zoya Akhtar say once. and it has stayed with me because it rings so true to, I think, a lot of female writers, that um, in our content we get to create the men we believe we deserve, or the men
Yes,
that we think should be in the world.
true,
And
true.
of course they are there, but there can be more of them.
I so
uh,
agree.
so yeah, I hold my male characters very dear as well.
True.
All these boys that you're seeing in the show, we've like, so I'm the lead writer on the show, by the way. There's a team
Mm,
of
mhm,
other writers
mm.
as well. Arsh, Sunena, we can give you the names. So we really sat down and carved these male characters also with a lot of love, and hopefully people will see that.
And also asking the two of you, Akash, since you were also involved in the casting, why did you particularly choose Prajakta? She's very well known, a YouTuber, influencer, and the young generation does connect with her big time. So was your go-to girl to play Dimple, and was Rohit your go-to boy to play Rishi?
No, actually, we had a large number of auditions,
Hmm.
and we were testing people left, right, and center. And I think that, and it's a very interesting story because what happens is that when you announce that Prajakta has been cast in it, people automatically assume it's because she was a YouTuber with followers. What was really interesting is that Netflix didn't know about the reach that say Prajakta Mostly Sane had. They didn't a lot of people don't put Mostly Sane and Prajakta Koli, the two names together.
Hmm.
They kind of know Mostly Sane as a really famous YouTuber. And I remember that I kind of called up our casting director Panchmi Ghavri, and I said that I've been there's some very good options, but there's this girl that I really like. And again, I had not seen too much Mostly Sane content.
Yeah.
Prajakta is a friend of Mithila's, and Mithila is a friend of mine, and I had actually seen I have met Prajakta thanks to Mithila. So I really liked her vibe. So I said, we are testing so many people. Why don't you test this girl? She's comfortable in front of the camera. And uh, apparently she was coming in that day itself, and neither of us knew we were talking about the same person.
Okay.
So then she called me in the evening and she said, there is a girl called Prajakta who tested. So I said, if it's this girl, then it's the one I was asking for. And we loved her audition.
Hmm.
And when we sent in the audition to Netflix, I mean, they loved the audition purely on the basis of the audition. And then I said, guys, this is who this person is. And so yeah, so that kind of was a once we had that audition, we wanted her really badly.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think it was 30, 40 auditions into the process. With regards to Rohit, Rohit was in the running from the beginning. Rohit had just done Sky is Pink with RSVP.
Hmm.
So there was an equation, and there was a lot of talk about him, and there was a lot of buzz about him. And he was traveling, I think he was touring with Sky is Pink for some festival. So we had him kind of in the back of our mind. We knew that this was an option, but again, there was a whole bunch of tests, and like a lot of people have tested for it. And then when Rohit came back and he tested, it kind of came to, he was very much featuring on our shortlist. And then we actually only chose our final couple after testing our options together.
Hmm.
I think that was very critical for me. So, I mean, Prajakta tested with about two or three boys, and Rohit tested with two or three girls, including Prajakta. And I think the chemistry was really what sold us, and just how they kind of played off each other, and the little yin and yang of it. So yeah, so that's how it kind of happened. But it was a bona fide audition process for the entire show, actually.
I have to say that it couldn't have been better cast. I mean, the writers had just, written those characters. They were in our minds. But when we saw these actors, we were like, oh my God, it couldn't have been more perfect. It was just literally like they came alive from the paper.
That's when you write. I know writers have this, whenever they're writing, they have this image that comes to mind, and when they're writing, they think maybe this actor would be best. Do you also do that? Do you perceive a certain actor talent in your mind while you're writing a character, or you write the character and then realize how another actor that character would look with the actor you have in mind?
No, so I actually never do that. I don't have an actor in mind. I might have a real person
Mm.
or like a mix of two, three people in my mind when I'm writing a certain
Yeah.
character, but no, I don't think of talent. It just I've seen that it hinders my process. And sometimes, when you're in the writer's room, one of the writers might throw a name around, but that name for a certain character, like an actor for a certain character that they've done, not for that actor's star quotient or anything.
Okay. And since you're both writers, Akarsh is a writer also. I love his Twitter timeline, which says writer, procrastinator, which I so relate to, and a social embarrassment and reluctant actor. I just absolutely love it. But you're both writers, and these days I'm seeing the writers have become the king. The rest just come to support them. Do you think it's high time it's finally happened? The writers are being given their due, and it's thanks to the platforms that we have on hand.
I think things are definitely looking much better than they were, say, 2 or 3 years back for writers. And you're right, it is because of platforms like Netflix. Um, because the value is that much higher, because
Yeah.
the importance, it all comes down to the writing. Um, because there's so much content out there.
Yeah.
For you to grab a viewer, it needs to be fresh, it needs to have a zing to it. And of course you cannot deny any of the other departments in creating something, but
It
the
all
original
starts with the
comes
writing
from that.
first.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if Akash agrees.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
Akash.
I do certainly think. I think what's happened is now with the number of platforms and the number of and there's just the amount of content out there. I think that there's so much to choose from that you got to go back to the drawing board and see what is what makes it unique and what makes it watchable. And I think that it kind of then becomes that there is of course a lot of style over substance out there, but it's substance that really matters. And I think content then becomes king because you've got to stand out on the basis of your content. Because I mean, honestly, everybody's acting in on OTT, right? I mean, like you've got Ayushmann Khurrana and Amitabh Bachchan on OTT now,
Yeah.
and the thing is that so it's not like, oh, I've got a bigger cast, so you'll watch my show, or and everyone's directing for that and everyone's shooting for it. So basically, it's wide open, right? So what's drawing you? The what's drawing you is really the content, and there's so much to choose from. So why is somebody watching one particular show over another is also because somewhere that content is kind of winning or standing out. So yeah, I do think that there's more importance attached to it,
Mm.
certainly. I also feel like I also feel like the importance of the writing process has become a little bit more people have become a lot more aware of it.
Mm.
Are writers kings and queens? We tend to believe that, but
But I'm
there's
certain it's apparent now because a lot of projects backed by star power, the so-called names that should be the draw and the be all and end all, haven't done well. And it's this new talent backed by solid writing, direction, and all is what's working for people. I mean, people you haven't even heard of, you know. So that's what people are watching. So I'm happy, but this is to both you. Lastly, what do you think are the challenges facing writers, directors, actors, since Ankush is all of those, post-COVID? What are the challenges?
Oh, wow.
well, I mean, I think that we're kind of now slowly and steadily moving on from the pandemic. I think we are. I think that one thing that happened is that irrespective of life coming to a standstill, the need for content only increased.
Yeah.
And I know that creators were really busy during the lockdown. So I think that there is a bigger need for content
Mm.
now, and of course there are limitations in the way that you will create that content eventually. But the point is that I think that's also real art comes from times of crisis. So I think there's going to be an interesting kind of sea change now. But I don't think that there's going to be any shortage, and I don't think there's going to be any kind of slowing down. I am on an off day after 8 days of shooting a film right now. So I mean, work is going on. I'm away from Bombay right now shooting a film, and we are taking all necessary precautions, and we are, but we are shooting a film,
Mhm.
and it didn't look possible 4 months ago, but here we are, and we are not the only ones.
True.
And I think that that survival instinct is really strong. People have to kind of, um, Yeah, you've got to take your precautions and make sure that you're kind of, not risking people, by exposing them. But yeah, the show must go on. I'm from, a background of theater where that's the only kind of motto we have,
True.
that come
Look
what
at the
may.
challenges
So,
that theater is facing as of now.
oh,
Creative.
it is massive. But I have got terrific news this morning that there are theaters that are slowly opening up from December, and I am thrilled because it's been very tough for all my theater friends who've been kind of locked in at home without too many opportunities. A lot of them had to leave Bombay and go back to their houses. But I think it's all kind of people have found the means and the courage and the protocol to kind of make sure that things keep moving. And yeah, fingers crossed for like safe passage for everybody.
True. Ghazal, what would you want to say? What are the challenges and what are the kind of stories do you think now should be also told that haven't been told yet?
No, so to answer your first question, I think what post pandemic the good thing for our industry would be that, not good, but the way to get around it would also be to find new stories.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have to find new ways of telling stories and to keep, so the challenge is going to be that much higher. There's this show that I absolutely love. This called This Is Us.
Yes.
So they've
It's a
started their
great word.
season 5, and they've included the timeline of COVID in it, and you see the story panning out with all the actors in masks and keeping social distance, and yet they're able to retain the whole sentimentality of, you're familiar with that story. I think it's beautiful and it's really challenging. It's challenging for the actors to deliver just through their eyes because mouths are covered.
Yeah.
So I think it's challenging, but it's also exciting. There's something I've written for Netflix itself, which also is works around the COVID world, and it was very exciting for me to write that. Even though it's small, that's the thing. You have to work around challenges by keeping maybe your um, scale small, but your vision large. So even through these small stories, you can tell something magnificent and poignant and important. And I think that'll have to be the way forward for some time to come.
And
Also, habits have changed. Yeah, I'm telling you. My parents, we didn't have. So I've been at home the past 10 months. Home as in Patiala, which
yeah.
is my hometown with my parents. Um, my parents were used to watching their regular daily shows or whatever, those Kapil Sharmas and everything on TV.
Hmm.
And then we got Netflix in the pandemic, and their viewing habits have changed.
True, true.
Yeah, like now they can't go back to their television. Now they honestly don't even care for when the cinema halls will open. They're
I've seen
happy
that
to
also.
have that one episode of a great show every day at 7 p.m. So yeah, Akash is right. There's a lot of creation that's gonna have to happen from our end, which is great news.
Thank you so much, both. All the very best for Mismatched and your future projects. Thank you so much for giving me your
Thank
time.
you so much, Pooja.
Thanks,
Bye
Pooja.
bye. Bye.
Bye.